was his Lion King analogy. So like,
That's who. Oh my goodness, I was trying to remember who talked about that.
Yeah,
it was Ben.
Because like I wanted to loop this into when we were talking about like the circle discussion, like the people who are around you, because he used Lion King as like an example, right? Like you need to have strong female figures, Nala, and then you need to have people around you that are different species or different races, Timon and Pumbaa. He went through like all these things and like, boom, that was great. Like that was fire, and for you to have that as like the opening clip on the podcast, that was fantastic. That was my favorite moment on the podcast. Was that?
And I don't think that's not what he did for that speech. Like he did some of that, but like he definitely created some more in that moment. But it is cool though to hear that story and how he even thinks about it. You know, like that. It all
spawned because Rafiki was his favorite, but he went so far. Like, but we just let him cook, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was articulation. I was like, dang, bro.
Yeah. I was speechless.
He was buckled in, man.
I rewatching that, all of us were just like nodding because like, damn, like Ben's spitting right now. Like this is he was spitting bars.
Going in, yeah. I definitely wasn't about to cut him off. I wasn't saying nothing.
I think
I'ma be who I gotta be. I ain't living in your fantasy. I'll be real if it's the death of me. I'ma be who I gotta be, and I don't care who you pretend to be, cause I'll be real if it's the death of me. Yeah, liars are liars, they burning.
Yeah, no. I'm saying, Kenny, let's jump it off like right here. Like,
you
like I want to hear about your. I want to just hear. Give me your like what was one thing that you got for Ben?
Are you recording? All right, so the first thing is like
we're on a podcast. You think I'm not recording?
The intro to the video usually does the countdown. I didn't see the countdown.
Yeah. Nah, it happened before you. Welcome to the podcast, everybody, including.
One big thing that I was super impressed with Ben was how introspective he is, and like how self-reflective he was. He like a lot of things that he talked about takes sounds easier to do than it actually is, which is like being able to look within yourself and do a lot of internal soul searching, whatever way you want to describe it. The fact he, even though like he's been through a lot of things in his life and he could blame multiple things or multiple external forces, even outside of like the things that have happened in his life, it's just how he carries himself. He's like very introspective, and that's something that I think me like I try to be as well. Like I always try to look within first before I like look outward, and I think that's something that like I think is super important. I think the audience, anyone listening, it's a very good practice to like work on.
Yeah, self-reflection. That's 100%. I would agree. I think, like you said, I mentioned in the intro that he's one of the most curious people that I know, and a lot of that stems from just him trying to learn like what's best for him in his life. You know, like what fits best for him in his personality, his mental health, his career. You know, like everything is kind of like, let me look inside. He mentioned a couple of times like stripping away all the things that we're taught and we grow up on. Yeah, and it's like a never-ending process for him, more than anybody that I've ever met.
And that's how it should be, in my opinion. Is you should always be constantly learning, because if you're at a point in your life where you feel like you have nothing to learn, you're plateaued. And a lot of things is sometimes people do think like that, and it goes back to our conversation before about a growth and a fixed mindset. Like that's a fixed mindset. You don't think you can change, and if you don't think you can change, you never will. So you always should be learning, because you should never think that you're the best, because if you think and you believe that you're the best, like not believe, but if you think that you're like you actually think you're the greatest or the best at something, you have nothing to. How do you get better? Like what are you aiming for?
Yeah,
right? And it's good to have confidence. I'm not saying like you need to be down on yourself and be like, oh man, like I'm the worst. Like you can have self-confidence and be confident in yourself and your abilities, but but I don't know. It's always healthy to think about like there's someone that's going to be better than you. There's someone that's going to know something that you don't.
Better in a different aspect or learn something.
I think when probably in that context people might hear that and think better as in like think more of like competitively.
Yeah, like you're number one in this.
Like ranking wise, but in life isn't necessarily about being ranked against other people. We're all in our own race, like we're all in our own lane. And so I really liked like some of the things he talked about, especially is like radical honesty and surrounding yourself with people who will keep you true, right? And that was a big one, is because who you have in your circle, who you surround yourself with, is absolutely one of the most important things, because I forget the exact quote that he said, but just talking about how like the energy that he gives off, it's going to be reflected back, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's one thing that stuck out to me too. He said, finding people that you trust and that are radically honest. He's like, these people won't allow you to lie to yourself, and eventually you'll stop lying. Or they want to allow you to lie to them, and then eventually you'll stop lying to yourself.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Is like, it also comes up with like, you need to have trust in, like, in your relationship with people, right? Like, because people in your circle, you need to be able to trust each other, that everything is coming from a good place, right? It's not, if someone calls you out on something, or if someone, like, your people around, if you surround yourself with a good support structure or a good circle, like they want what's best for you, and they can see things sometimes that you might not necessarily see. And so, but it's hard because you're not always going to be in a place where you're ready to accept that feedback, or you're ready to accept help. But a good supportive circle will still be there even when you're not ready for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell on myself real quick, but this just hit me in a sense. I have some in the negative light. Okay.
Yeah. No, this is good. I don't think everything should be positive all the time.
Yeah. Just like we can't cherish everyone.
Oh, bam.
Not right now, man.
So when it comes to relationships with me, okay, like I probably know at the level of good and bad, but I will say that I've always had a friend at every single level, every single relationship that I've been in, that's been like, hey, bro, like, this is not the one. Like, and I'm like, I appreciate you for telling me that. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to do this anyway, but like, I got you. And when it ends, I can tell you something. No lie. Like, one of my best friends, Brandon, I'm not gonna go to too much detail, but Brandon, one time he's like, hey, bro, look, I'm gonna support you here, but like, this is not it. Okay, this is not it. And as soon as I was ready to end it, he was like, yeah, I told you so. Told you so. But just having like radically honest friends, every single time, like, because a relationship, that's something that's like super personal to you. Everybody gets defensive on, oh no, this is the one, or everything is going right, we just got this little thing to work on. You know, it's so personal to you. You know, it's not even nothing to do with your career, but having people to like check you, like, hey, bro, like, this, I know what you think, but like, this probably isn't the best for you. You got to find those people and like identify it too, though.
Yeah, you know what? Another thing that he brought up too that like really made me think a lot, because I kind of feel like traditionally I feel otherwise, but he talked about like being around, like he talked about our circle, and then he said also it's important for our circle to have an understanding that we have or may have different views, beliefs, and thoughts and opinions, but still being able to accept our differences and still, you know what I'm saying? So that was huge for me, because like, unfortunately, I find myself being the one sometimes, you know, we got that main character syndrome, but I find myself being the one sometimes who was like, okay, Kenny said he strongly feels this way. I feel this way. But Kenny ain't gonna fold. I'll be the one to fold and say, you know what? I will, you know, put my beliefs, my thoughts and opinions in my back pocket, if that means that, you know, we could still be friends, or we could still, you know, whatever the case may be. But he was talking about like, just everybody being, even though we have different views, opinions and all that, to still be able to be on the same page. That was huge for me. That's your boy who was like, even though for me to sit here and say, I love Leo, that's my guy, and watch you self-sabotage and have a completely different view on what you should be doing right now, because you my boy, I'm gonna let you do it. And hopefully you just learn from it. You know,
exactly. I'm gonna communicate with you. I'm not just gonna let you, like, there's a difference between a friend saying like, oh yeah, do it, and talking about you behind your back and be like, hey, look, like, let's have this conversation real quick. We disagree. I'm letting you know this is why I disagree. We can still be cool, but like, don't expect me to save you.
Or even worse, wait till after the fact and then say, I told you so.
Yeah, I told you so.
That's
I knew that. What?
Yeah. And I think close friends, like, you're always going to get some sort of ribbing, right? You're going to get some jokes about it. But for the most part, like, if you're truly like close with somebody, you're truly like a supportive friend, like, you'll support them even if it's the wrong decision, even if you think it's the wrong decision and you kind of can see that it's going to crash and burn. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's not your decision to make.
They probably need that the most too. They probably, you know, in those moments need that the most.
Yeah, they need to learn. No, I echo that as well. I think it's super important, like, that your circle around you isn't just a hive mind. Like, if everyone's thinking the same, someone's not thinking.
That's true. And that's what I like about us too, though, is like, that y'all are not afraid to speak y'all's mind. That's why I love popping that question. Y'all ask it a lot too. Just like, what do you think? And to know, like, I know that y'all ain't gonna say what sounds good. Can it be like, I disagree, and here's why, you know, and being able to have those conversations. I can't have those conversations with most people in like different friend groups, whatever. So when he said that, I was like, dang. To me, I felt like I need to change my friend group, or I need to reevaluate, you know, because like I was like, man, he's speaking facts. And another thing that he brought up that I really was like, when he first started talking, right, he was spitting bars, and I'm like, finally, oh my goodness, this is what I've been trying to explain. Like, why is it so hard? You know, I be trying to, like, I got friends, whatever, that I be trying to talk to. A lot of people ask me for advice, whatever. My problem is I simplify things too much. So I'm like, why don't people see this like the way that he does? Like, why when I explain it, does it not make sense? And then he kind of dove into what it took for him to even be able to have that level of understanding. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because like I get frustrated and I get blue in the face saying, I feel like these are your problems. I feel like you should start here. Like, and these are genuinely like people asking for advice too. So it's frustrating to me seeing something that they don't see, but at the same time, like he just kind of shared what his path was like and what it took for him to actually be able to start receiving information and like actually self-reflect. And I'm like, dang, when he said that, it was a moment of realization for me. I'm like, dang, you know what? I need to be more considerate, like, for real. And it's a problem that I face, and it was a moment of realization for me.
And it's tough too, going along those same lines. It's like a lot of people don't realize that they're not maybe as open as they could be, right? And it takes a lot of maybe mental maturity to understand, like in a discussion, I don't want to say argument, but like in a discussion, it takes a lot of maturity to realize when two people they're talking past each other, or they're talking around each other, and they're not really like you don't always have to come to an agreement in a discussion. Right. And so it takes like a certain level of maturity to kind of be like, okay, like, hey, we're not getting into the discussion. Like, I hear your points. I'm glad that you shared them. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but like, I'm still like, this is my like perspective. This is what I still believe. Like, and it's okay that we think different things. Yeah. And that's the hard part, is for some people to let go that it's okay to not always agree on things. Yeah. Because like when some people are talking and like they don't want to hear your opinion. They just want to hear their opinion come out of your mouth. That's all they're
Whoa. Whoa.
And so that's for me, like, that's one thing that I've noticed, is that's such a big thing, is people are so deeply tied to their opinions and beliefs. Yeah. Like that they're so defensive of it. But yeah. Like, I go into discussions with someone who I know disagrees with, like, or has a different viewpoint from me. I go into them wanting to learn and understand where they're coming from. I'm not going into it to try to change their mind. I'm going into it to talk to them, ask them questions, and just get to know, level with them, and get to know where they're coming from. Maybe play devil's advocate a little bit to bring up some counterpoints that maybe I believe in, and then just have a discussion back and forth to try to share where I come from, where they come from. Yeah. So it's never from a place of, you know, maliciousness, or I'm not trying to antagonize them. It's purely from a place of understanding. I want to understand. Yeah. But I can't say a lot of people probably think the same.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the difference between like actual, like, people who are curious, people who want to help and develop an understanding, and then like the fixed mindset. So yeah, he hit it dead on, man. He was just talking about the fixed mindset versus, you know, being able to sit down and look in that mirror. A lot of people can't do that. I'm still trying to do it. And like, man, it's tough, bro. It's really tough. So like I can see where the fixed mindsets come from, but it just made me want to grow that much more to hear like his journey, and like pretty much what it takes, how different everybody's journeys can be, and how different everybody's brain works, essentially. But
no, I love it.
That's a bar you just said though, bro. Oh man, we gotta clip that one, bro. Goodness, man, I got chills over here.
Yeah, and that's just how I feel about, like, especially in these like charged times. Like that's exactly how I feel. Like, people don't care about what you have to say; they just want to hear you say what they're thinking. Yeah, and that's all they do, and then they'll just keep asking you pointed questions until they get that out of you.
You say what's on their mind.
Yep. But going back to G's, your point right now, I loved what he talked about his journey, because it really hits on that it's such a long process, and it's an ongoing process. You never reach a point of like finality where you're done and you're done growing. And it's like you should always be seeking to grow and improve and like ask questions and be curious. So I really appreciated that about him, because I think it's pretty rare. I don't know many people who are like that as well.
Bro, for him to have that level that he does of peace and like inner, whatever you want to call it, but like the fact that we had the conversation that we had, and I know him, y'all know him, and it's like he still be sitting here and being modest. He said, I mean, I don't want y'all to, he said, I don't want y'all to think I'm just, this guy who just knows it all. I'm sitting here like, bro, but I won't say you know it all, but you do, like, you're that guy. And it's just funny. I was sitting here like, yeah, man, I've just been doing this for a little while. So I even learned a little bit from that, man. And he said, like, the way that he said that it's an ongoing thing, it's almost like scary, but motivating at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like essentially a lot of people want to become masters of things, or people want to be like the best that they could be or whatever. But like, that's just a quick bar that just says that it's a lifestyle. You're going to constantly be getting at it, constantly growing. And yeah, that was
he even like made a point to say like, I think that I have it figured out in this stage right now, but I'm going to look back 10 years from now and be like, yeah, all right, now I know what I didn't know.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, that's how far I was off at that time. So. Yeah. Have y'all thought about it all? What Ben said about like his physiological changes? Have y'all practiced any of that? Thought about it or anything?
I've thought about it. I haven't necessarily practiced it, I guess, because I think I said it in the pod as well. Like, I don't think the same necessarily, and like I think my reactions are more. I think my habits and my reactions naturally are more mental to start, I guess, rather than, and I associate them more with thoughts than I do with physical feels, and so I haven't connected the two. So that's something that I'm interested in now that we're bringing it up again to maybe monitor for the next month and try to actually see.
I'm the same, so I was just curious on if y'all had experienced it or whatever. But I'm the same.
I had that in my notes too. Like that was one thing that like really, so it's because it surprised me in the pod as well. And so not surprised in like not a bad way. Like I was just super interested in it because I know some people are feel people. Like some people have they go off of feels like as their cues, and then for me it's more like thoughts, like mental. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a really intriguing part of the pod.
Yeah. G, have you experienced anything like that, or?
I haven't experienced it myself or like experimented with it, I guess I should say, but definitely I do agree that like there are reasons and logic behind the feelings, and he busted our head with it just so casually, just like bro, I'm like, whoa, wait. I definitely need to take a deep dive though, but I do feel like I agree that I feel like there are reasons, a lot more logic behind it that I need to probably explore myself in that way, but I haven't yet now.
So tell me this then, Kenny, because I think, Kenny, exactly what you said. I'm more mental whenever I'm thinking about something or feeling something. It always goes to my brain. So tell me this, because another thing that he mentioned was being disconnected from your emotions. He said that he was disconnected from emotions. I'm like, well, I'm way off, way off my emotions. But like, I think that some cultures, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, if y'all's is different where you grew up and family and all that stuff. But I was definitely like raised in a sense to be disconnected from a lot of my emotions, to be able to tame, hide, monitor, like any emotion that I was getting, whether it was happy, sad, mad, angry, like it all had to be shaped into the same thing. And unfortunately, it looks like we're dead. Do y'all think that maybe that's connected to each other?
Oh, absolutely. Like how our upbringing, how we were brought up in our upbringing affects us a lot, right? Because that's like, it's super important in my opinion. I'm not giving parental advice to anyone, but to have like people having a high EQ, like emotional IQ, is very important. And being able to teach children how to properly deal with emotions and how to properly recognize and deal with emotions is a very important thing. Otherwise, there's I don't want to drop like keywords all the time, but like the sense of toxic masculinity, right? Like you teach, like when you have a boy who stubs his knee and he starts crying, like if like two kids, right? 5-year-olds, a girl, 5-year-old boy. Boy stubs his toe, starts crying, or falls down, starts crying. Parents can be like, "Oh, you're a boy, toughen up, like you're fine." A girl falls and scrapes her knee and starts crying. You'll hug her, tell her it's okay, princess. Like like that's how you approach things. And so from a young age, like you're teaching. I'm not generally going to box everyone, but like we were. So I know some people are taught as boys growing up that like you like what are emotions, right? And you see it a lot, I think, with like toxic bro culture as well. Like men don't have emotions, right? Like emotions are for sissies. Like they're not like, but I think Ben shattered all of that stuff because like you need to be in tune with everything of yourself, and emotions are a part of you.
Yeah, you're doing yourself a disservice by being disconnected from your emotions, not anybody else's emotions. They're literally your emotions. You can't understand your emotions, and that's cool.
Yeah.
What?
But I agree though. I think like because I was the same way. Being brought up, I think our culture was very I don't know how to describe it really. I don't want to say didn't put an importance on like individual emotion, but it was always it was never like that was never a focus, right?
Right.
Regardless of what the emotion was, it was more of, am I doing things correct, or am I doing the right thing? Like,
And that's huge though, because like if some things just weren't taught or you never experienced it as a kid, then like when it does happen, I mean, even you could be 30 years old, it could be your first time encountering a certain feeling, and you don't know how to digest it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird to say, but I feel like probably I'll say 60% of who I am to this day, and it could definitely be better, but 60% of who I am is because of what I've been through, like how I was brought up, and I feel like it will always be a percentage there of like who you are as a person, what you went through as a kid, and like, I think that's really important for us to remember as parents, leaders, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, whatever. But like as a kid, those little things like could literally like shape you for the rest of your life if you let it. It potentially can. Some people don't have the strength, the mental will to be able to overcome some trauma that you caused. So like,
absolutely. But also everything as a kid, like, do you guys remember, this is maybe a tangent, but like everything as a kid felt so much larger than it actually was. Like the world felt like large and small at the same time as a kid.
Yeah, that's true.
And like
I would say
magnified.
Yeah, I think, and we could be talking about two different things here. I feel like the world was large because of how confined we were. Like I think my parents did a good job of like keeping us out of like whatever you want to call it, Gen
Pop. Go ahead and put them on speakerphone. Tell them. Maybe get speaker real quick.
Also, I feel like we didn't have access to the world like people do now.
I think that's what I was gonna say, is between like access to the world through social media, and also probably now like we know how to hop on a flight ourselves, and we know more about, like, we talk things in geography, but like you can't really like put it to scale if you haven't traveled. So I think that's probably got something to do with it.
I can't pull up my phone, and like when I was 10 years old, I didn't have a cell phone. I could pull up and look at social media and see people across the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. But I think going back to what you're saying, I think Ben was such a high emotionally like IQ person, like, and he's very empathetic, and I think having empathy is a very important trait in my opinion. I think it makes good managers and good leaders as well, because if a man, like, I think that's, for me personally, I think that's a necessary trait for a leader, is to be able to have
EQ.
Yeah.
Kenny, did you have any more themes? I got like two more things that I want to talk about, but do you have any more themes that you?
I guess like the one lasting big thing that I'll talk about is his Lion King analogy. So like,
oh my goodness! I was trying to remember who talked about that.
Yeah,
it was Ben. Oh yeah.
Because like I wanted to loop this into when we were talking about like the circle discussion, like of people who are around you, because he used Lion King as like an example, right? Like you need to have strong female figures, Nala, and then you need to have people around you that are different species or different races to go into Pumbaa. He went through like all these things, and like, boom, that was great. Like that was fire, and for you to have that as like the opening clip on the podcast, that was fantastic. That was my favorite moment of the podcast. Was that?
And I don't think that's not what he did for that speech. Like he did some of that, but like he definitely created some more in that moment. But it is cool though to hear that story and how he even thinks about it. Like that is
all
such
spawned because Rafiki was his favorite, but he went so far. Like, but we just let him cook, and it was awesome.
Yeah, like, it was articulation. I was like, dang, bro.
Yeah, I was speechless.
He was buckled in, man.
I rewatching that, all of us were just like nodding because like, damn, like Ben's spitting right now. Like he was spitting bars,
going in. Yeah. I definitely wasn't about to cut him off. I wasn't saying nothing.
I think one thing that I noticed about him, and I think that says a lot, is his ability to navigate through his emotions verbally, like right there in front of us, and like talk about it. That right there alone says how much I couldn't tell you how I feel today, but he was able to navigate through so many emotions and like explain exactly how he felt. He was even able to like address some areas and like, some questions that we asked him, like, I don't know how I feel about that. That right there shows just the emotional intelligence is insane, bro.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man.
There's even a moment like on the discussion in the podcast. He was like, I'm actually feeling this right now because, the recording is on. And like that happens with everybody, but that's first person that's acknowledged like, hey, I know that this is being recorded and I'm still going to say this, even though I know it's being recorded. So yeah, super brave to be able to, number one, be willing to dive into your emotions, but also to address them with whoever. So
what about, what were your themes, Leo?
Yeah. No, I had just one other thing that I thought was kind of crazy, but it's not crazy, but I think that we probably don't think about this very often, or we like diminish it a lot. But he's like, a lot of people don't get a second chance. And granted, like he could have died in his childhood, quite literally, but a lot of us like forget some of the things that we've been through and like don't even acknowledge like how your life could have been compared to what you've been through, or, the way it's going right now. A lot of us don't truly think about like where I came from or what I had at this point in time, like the trajectory of it couldn't have been this.
Agreed.
Like I remember, like this is super cliche of me to say, but I remember when going on the deployment, but we found out it was pretty much, we had an inkling like 12 months in advance. I think we knew like 6 months in advance or something like that. But for 6 months straight, I'm like, yo, I could die in 6 months. Like I have no clue what I'm about to get into, but like literally in 6 months, and the time is literally just ticking down, when I could have died the next day. But to make it out on the side of that, I think that every single year now I'm going to diminish that deployment, even though I still could have died. Yeah. But like we don't do that. We don't go back to like, all right, this could have been over here.
I think I agree. It's the best way I can think about it too is like, it's hard to think about like the doors that closed, right? That like the ones that you didn't go down, like all the paths that, like every decision necessarily is a split path, right?
Yeah.
And we go down one path, but you don't really look at the side that you didn't take, because I feel like at a certain point you keep going and you get too far down and you just, so I agree. It's difficult to kind of sit back and think about what could have been.
Yeah.
Because we're never forced to. Like
we aren't never forced to. Yeah.
Right. We're never forced to think about what could have been.
And also the paths that someone else took for you too.
Yeah. Those are also super important.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my last one, is just kind of like making sure that you look back, because typically, especially us Americans, are very, you may be grateful, but you're not like super grateful, for what you currently have.
Facts.
Yes.
So yeah, just going back to like, it could have actually been this, we all could probably say, I know somebody who's homeless, or I know somebody who's sick right now, or I know somebody who died young. Like that could have easily been you. If you know somebody, you're very close to that circle, that realm, that sphere of life.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's the thing I took away from that is just like to be appreciative and also be reflective. Don't be afraid to look back at everything that made you, everything that happened, everything that didn't. And like, because life's journey is truly amazing.
Yeah, Ben was reflective.
I'm just happy to be here.
Happy to be here. And can you cherish everyone?
No.
Still working on Kenny. We gonna get there, y'all. All right, wrapping it up. Golightly, you got some motivational speech for me today?
I got nothing, man. Just one day at a time, one brick at a time, just getting better, physically, mentally, in every aspect.
Amen.
Love it. Appreciate y'all for hopping on. Pursue excellence and cherish everyone. Peace. Hey, what up? It's Leo. I just want to quickly say thank you for tuning into the P.E.A.C.E podcast. It means a lot that you decided to take your time, get through this video. I hope that you learned something. Thanks for joining us at what we call the dinner table. Hopefully you got some quick nuggets out of it. What I want you to do, if you could do me one last favor, hit the subscribe button, hit like, and share this with a friend. Peace.